Hi, everybody. Jill Simonian here from PragerUkids.com. If you have not subscribed yet for free, do so now, PragerUkids.com. I am, so very excited to have a fiery and fierce but very faithful guest today that I think is just going to ignite your spirit. Sonia Shaw, Chino Valley Unified School District's Board of Education president. The president. You have seen this woman online on social media fighting the right good fight against bureaucrats here in California, trying to impose all sorts of crazy things to, dare I say, separate children from their parents. Chino Valley Unified, of course, is in Southern California. Thank you for being here so much.
Absolutely. It's such an honor. I love you so much, and I'm so grateful to be in this journey with you.
Most importantly, you're a mom. So this is going to be a very honest mom-to-mom talk. You have two beautiful daughters, right?
Yes, two beautiful teenagers.
Okay. And we're going to talk about that as well, because when you're out there in the public fighting a lot, I'm a mom of two preteen girls, and a lot of times my preteens will kind of roll their eyes, oh, mom, there you go again. So we're going to talk about that mom life in the course of this conversation. But first, I really want to just, jump into this about, we're going to talk about this recent law that California's Governor Newsom signed. We are filming this conversation now at middle of July. So this just happened, AB 1955, prohibiting kindergarten through 12th grade teachers in public schools across California from sharing information about students' gender identity with their own parents. So we're going to talk about this, and then we're also going to talk about that how much this seems to me like a direct response, and pardon my French, slap in the face, to the parental notification policies that you and your school board have been passing these last several months. You've gone head to head with California leadership. We're going to talk about the hope you have for the future. But before we get into any of that, I really want people to know your story about how you are a mom, and running for school board was really the last thing on your mind. This was not something that you had any intention of jumping into. I would like you to share how you first came to the idea and the resolution to run for school board. How did you come to the position you are now? What happened in your community and how you got involved?
Absolutely. And for time's sake, I'll try to sum it up.
Yes.
So during the pandemic, I feel like there was a silver lining, and it exposed a lot of things that a lot of us were not aware of. I was that mom. I didn't have my mom passed away when I was very young.
Oh.
So I wanted to be that mom that was there for my children all the time. And when the pandemic happened, prior to that, I was always in the classroom. I was room mom, art mom, PE mom. I was any mom that was needed in the classroom to be able to help our teachers and help our kids, and essentially help our kids grow. Well, when the shutdown happened, I knew that this situation that was going on and the behind the screens thing with no plan in front of us wasn't going to work. So what me and my husband did, we made the tough decision that most parents are afraid to do. But we prayed about it, we talked about it, and we pulled our kids out and put them in a charter school that was in person, while most of all kids were still stuck behind the screen. During that time, though, that was a temporary solution for our family. And, I was driving 45 minutes one way with a couple of our neighborhood kids. Us moms were ride sharing, and my heart was still hurting because I'm like, I know my kids still want to go back, and I know that there's also kids that didn't have that. So with that said, I got onto social media, started connecting with other parents. We found a little group. Somebody said we need to go voice our opinion at a school board meeting. And I'm like, what the heck is a school board?
Right.
I had no clue. They said, oh, they're these elected people that, that make these decisions for our school. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry to say, but I was that person that never really voted. The first president I voted for, I'd probably get in trouble for. But anyways, long story short, I'm making up for it. But with that said, we started to attend these school board meetings, and we quickly found out these people have no good intentions when it came, the majority,
Right.
when it came to actual education. And that's when I was like, something has to change. I quickly became the president of a grassroots parent organization. We started trying to get the kids back in school. All while my kids were still, attending in person somewhere. We were trying to get the kids back in school. I do have to give our district credit. They were one of the first districts to bring kids back in school, but then there was the mask thing. And I'm like, the whole world is back to normal and these kids are still being masked. Mind you, mine were not. They were in person and thriving. So I was hearing these horror stories. People were telling me what was, happening to their kids. I would deliver pizza when kids were put outside in the rain because they wouldn't let them in the classroom because they refused to put a mask on.
It was awful.
Horrible stuff. And then we realized somebody said an election's coming. So our parent organization, who knows nothing about politics, started to now look for candidates. Our community was turning into trustee areas. This actual next election will complete it. So we were learning how to read maps. We were learning how to read trustee areas. So I go back home. I get on a Zoom with all of our moms and the one dad that we had in our leadership group of this parent organization. And I'm like, get out the map to one of our moms, Kelly, because she learned how to read the maps. I said, start giving addresses. One of you are going to run. We're going to get behind you. We're going to get support. We're meeting with elected officials. We're doing all these things. We got this, guys. And we get down the addresses. Mine was the last one to come. No one was in the area yet. My house is literally on the line. And all the moms were like, Shaw 2022. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I still get chills telling that story.
I have chills right now.
I get them in my face chills because I'm like, oh, I cannot tell all these moms they were going to do it. And then it comes to my address and I have to back out now.
You can't say no.
It was like 11 something at night, Jill. I go upstairs to my husband to give him a kiss. I'm gone all over the place fighting the good fight. I'm talking about the health department. We're everywhere trying to find solutions for our kids at that moment. And I go upstairs and he gives me a kiss goodnight. And then I'm like, babe, we need to talk. And he goes, it's like 11:30. And I'm all, no, we really need to talk. And then he goes, what is wrong? And I'm like, we need to run for school board, but I need your permission. And he was like, we're not in the area. Because, we never really thought about it. I was doing this for, a year and a half. And then he goes, well, I said, no, we are in the area. We're on the line. The main street is where our house is. Like, we're on the line. And he goes, well, then God opened the door. We'll run. And he kissed me goodnight. And the rest was history.
And that was it.
That was it.
Because it is a family affair.
Absolutely. Every single family member needs to be on board because what comes with going against this evil is it needs to have a family. We need to pray. We needed to focus. We needed to be in it together because if one of us was not, then it would have never worked. We had to be on board together. The support needed by the whole family is absolutely 100% was what we needed. And it brought I believe our family is close, tight-knit because God did that, but it even brings you even closer together, right? Because it's a very intimate thing that you're attacked at all levels. And if you're not working as a unit, when one of you is down, the other one's got to pick you guys up, right?
And I want to talk about the attacks in a moment because that is a whole other ball of wax that I'm sure you could not even imagine prior to living in it and really holding your ground and keeping your head and heart, grounded. In terms of the actual process of running, you just started knocking on doors? Because someone who is watching this, who is a parent, who is just like you and I saying, prior to the lockdowns, I never imagined doing this. What did you do? Just very briefly, because nobody knows. We don't know how to do this.
Absolutely. So I will tell parents this. A lot of your school board members, which I've seen all across California, they have organizations like Act Blue and all these things that dump money into these people who have no good intentions. Right. They put them in local positions because that's where you really can make the change, right? Because we know the majority of Sacramento is all bought and sold. But here's what I do say. With that said, the person that we unseated, she had $125,000 of donations from White House employees, all outside money, mostly outside money, White House employees, attorney generals, Planned Parenthoods, all teacher unions, everything you can imagine were on there, and about 30,000 from our local teacher union that I think is 25 or 30,000 that they dumped into her campaign alone. We could not compete with that as normal people. We had one great donation from somebody who was involved in baseball for the boys and a coach in all of our communities, which I loved and appreciated.
In your local area.
It helped us kind of compete with that part. But when you have somebody who's sending mailers every day, you have somebody who's doing Fox commercials. She did everything that we can never compete with. But the one thing she couldn't do while she was paying her walkers, we were there door to door. We had, I would say, it was beautiful, Jill. This is where the community came together. I would say at least 20 people on the ground every single day for the last 2.5 months of that election. And we were knocking anywhere from 2 to 6 hours alongside me. So if somebody said, I want to speak to the candidate, it'd be like, let me call her. She's 2 blocks away, right? And I was there to make sure I had been able to give the answers. But the most beautiful part is when someone opened the door, you get a paid walker from her who can't answer from their heart why they're there. And you get a grandma, grandpa, mom, or me, or even my kids at a door. It made all the difference. Look, we only won. And the only reason why I know how much we won by, because I'm reminded by the crazy left every day, 316 votes. But we beat an incumbent. She was the board president, but that's because the community came together, and that is the most beautiful part. So when you're going against big money, just remember your heart will always win if God wants to open that door.
And I do believe that authentic, like you said, that authentic intention of this is the why, that resonates with people, because no matter what happens online or with big money, real people resonate with real people.
They do.
In your own local community. So let's talk about this parental notification policy that was brought forth by your district several months ago. Everyone, if you haven't looked at it on Instagram, I mean, I'm sure you can find it it was in 2023, correct?
Yes.
You passed a parental notification policy in Chino Valley Unified School District that really just ticked off a lot of people in Sacramento. Tell me about that parental notification policy and what it actually said, because there's a lot of myth and misinformation about that.
Oh, absolutely. So when I found Bill Selly was trying to bring that as a law to inform parents, I found our district alongside other districts because of the CSBA recommended policies. That's the California School Board Association. They recommend policies to districts. Actually had a policy in place that kept secrets in regards to this situation. So it's not like a made up issue. It's something that there's policies in place still till this day. Most of the districts around California have it, and it keeps secrets. So when I found that out and I saw what they did and they wouldn't give AB 1314 a hearing, and I found out we can actually bring a policy forward, I worked alongside many beautiful people to bring this legal policy forward to say, you know what, parents, during the pandemic, during all these things that are going on, all these things that we see from the Department of Ed and the unions, the trust is broken, but we're going to bring that back here in Chino, and hopefully we can ignite the fire and let it spread throughout California to encourage the same thing. And if your school board members don't want to do that, that's what we did. We switched our board. So it'll help you switch your board back to people who are actually focusing on education. So with that said, we brought it forward. We did it very transparent. We brought it for our first reading, and then we brought it in July for a vote. We wanted to do it before school started again. So the next school year, we can say, parents, stop taking your kids out of school. There is trust. We're going to do the right thing here in this district. And July is when Tony Thurmond came off his throne. Mind you, us parents had reached out to him so many times prior for help, and we were ignored completely. I still have emails. I was put on a Zoom for something one time, and he was talking to media about something. You know, it's just crazy. Well, anyways, he shows up.
And Tony Thurmond is the superintendent for California.
Yep, he's our state superintendent of education for California.
And he showed up to your school board meeting, and this was shared online.
Absolutely.
And the both of you went head to head.
Well, yeah, he had his minute. I as a school board president, you're allowed to make certain exceptions because him and Bill Aselli they're elected officials for their safety. I allowed them to go first, have special seating, make sure, they're safe because that's the most important part. I knew this was going to be a heated meeting because you see all kinds of things spreading out throughout media. So that was my first thing is to make sure these people were safe that were coming to go speak. Mm-hmm. We got the heads up that day that Tony Thurmond was coming. So it wasn't like he told us. And then right before that meeting, most people didn't know, he had reached out to our superintendent, but I had given our superintendent direction because that's what that's what these people do. They bully the superintendents. And I said, if you are to get a call and you're told, that they want you to pull this or anything, you give them my personal cell phone number and you tell them that, we're to take that call, not you. So right before the meeting, I did get a call from Tony and I was like, where are you, Tony? I knew where he was. We gave him a special room to do his media. We allowed all these exceptions for him. And I said, come talk to me. And he goes, well, I just want you to pull it so we can talk about this later. And I said, oh, interesting. You had a month and a half or a month that I had brought this first forward. This is a stunt. So no, we could talk after and we can work together after. I've been trying to work with you for the last few years.
Right.
Long story short, he had his minute, as everybody else did.
Speaking against the parental notification policy,
yep.
falsely claiming you were outing students
yep.
against their will, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely. And that was like, I'm sorry, no. So I called a point of order And I let him know why we're in this position. I thanked him for being there. And I said, but we're here because of people like you pushing the perversion on children. And I'm sorry, we're not going to do that. He approached the mic back up and he said he was going to ask for a point of order. He says, and then he goes, point of order. And I'm like, oh, no. We know how this works. I've been in Sacramento. You go have a seat. We're done. You're not going to take over our meeting. You're not going to bully us and you're not going to tell us what to do. And I told him to have a seat. He refused. Security asked him to, and eventually he ended up leaving and walking out to his media room where he lied and said I kicked him out and had armed guards kick him out and all this stuff. But yeah, that's
many people in your position, because this story that you just shared directly correlates to the recent signing of AB 1955
Absolutely.
that is making national headlines. But before we go there, I just briefly want to ask you, a lot of people would really cower and fear and hesitate to stand up and just speak frankly in a position like that when you are faced with that type of fire coming at you. Why are you not scared like other normal people?
Well, it's not that I don't, but let's be real. I serve a God who's going to protect me. And if he's going to put me in it, he's going to get me through it. But I will say this. It's not to say that I do not get scared, because when we did pass that, Bonta opened a lawsuit. My life was threatened. My family's members' lives were threatened. My animals were threatened multiple times. And, that's not like a light thing. That's not something you take lightly with a family. I have beautiful children. The reason why I'm in this is to make sure kids are safe. And here I have my own kids being threatened on a normal basis. I hate to say it, but it's not that I'm not afraid. But what I am afraid of is if we don't speak the truth and we don't stand up, the kids that will be hurt in result of that. And I think for so long, everybody's so afraid to ruffle the feathers that now that's the reason why we're in this. So
Correct.
We don't start putting a stop to this. I really believe, courage is courageous. And I'm not saying I have the courage, but I have the voice. And that's what we need. If we have somebody who has a voice and I have all this support from our community, why wouldn't I go out and be their voice to protect the children? So when it comes to the bigger picture of what we can do and what we have been able to do to make sure children, our most precious, are safe and they're just protected, I would be a coward if I were to run away from that and be afraid of these people who like to bully and threaten people. I just couldn't do that. I couldn't walk away. So to me, it's, you take the risk because of what the outcome could be.
What's at stake, right? Mm-hmm. Now, Attorney General of California, Rob Bonta.
Yes.
Brought the lawsuit against your parental notification policy. It was then communicated through varied forms of media thereafter. He said on air, online, well, technically, we have no way of enforcing teachers to keep secrets from parents.
Absolutely.
Which then, now we are here with this AB 1955, Newsom signing into law, prohibiting teachers from informing parents should their own children request a bathroom change, locker room change, pronoun change at school.
Yeah.
To me, from the outside, as someone who is viewing and formulating my own opinions on this, it seems as though this AB 1955 is a direct response and slap in the face to your parental notification policies. Am I being crazy, or that's what this is?
You're absolutely correct. Because remember, we got sued for an illegal policy, right? Bonta said what we were doing was illegal. He called parents dangerous, all to turn around and support the gut and amend that was pushed through the month of June, which was AB 1955, who Newsom just recently signed it. So when you go back and trace the dots, we are still in court for that illegal policy. Wow. That has not ended. I think the last time we were actually physically in court was maybe in March of this year. And we have another hearing set for August. So we're actively still in that lawsuit for what they called an illegal policy, all to turn around and support a law to make it finally illegal, come January 2025. So make it make sense is what I always say. But in the long run, it was never, and they call it the outing policy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jill, when a child is coming out to thousands of students, because high schools are thousands of students, right?
Right.
I know, at least in our high schools, and hundreds of staff members, and saying, I want to be called by this opposite sex's name. I want to use the opposite sex's restrooms or play on the opposite sex's sports. How are we not supposed to involve the parents? This was not about a conversation. This was not about a child saying, oh, I think I'm a boy and they're really a girl. This was nothing about that. This is making an unofficial record change. Parents with FERPA have a right to that. But this is what they're saying now is parents still have a right to that. But you have to go ask constantly, did my child change anything? Why? Why wouldn't we just notify the parents then? That is an important thing that parents need to know. Kids need the help of their own parents. And with Xing them out and the government parenting, we know what that ends up in. It's a disaster. It's horrible. And kids will die and be hurt in result of this.
One of the first things that I saw online, of course, were the comments from parents in California and from parents outside of California responding with the very fair question of why are there no lawsuits being filed by parents against this new AB 1955 law? They call it the safety.
Yes. See how twisted
which
they
is
are?
ironic. And what's interesting to me is that days after this law being signed into effect, there actually has been a lawsuit filed
24 hours later.
24 hours later by Liberty Justice Center.
Thank God.
I don't want to put you in a position of talking about something you're not allowed to talk about because I know lawsuits are very sensitive.
Yes.
But are you involved with Liberty Justice Center in filing this lawsuit against the state of California?
Jill, we knew Newsom wanted this on his desk. Now, I don't agree with the timing of when he signed it. I think he's being slimy all when, unfortunately, the country is mourning what just happened recently in the recent events. But I will say he did this on purpose, and he tried to sign it during a time when the focus is on something else. But we were prepared. So our board had already approved the meeting prior, that we were going to open suit if Newsom signed it. So we were ready. Liberty Justice has been a blessing because let's be real, we don't want to be reckless and waste our kids, money for education. So thankfully, gratefully, Liberty Justice has been there from day one with our previous suit, and they were there from day one with this suit. 24 hours later, we were ready to go. They filed the suit. We also have parents from other districts, including ours in Chino, that were brave enough to say they wanted to be on this suit. So it's not only Chino Valley, it's them, and hopefully we have another couple more districts to join us. But we are suing now Newsom, Bonta, and Thurman, who I call the political cartel of Sacramento, and letting them know we have a constitutional right and we're not going to allow this.
I've heard you say that phrase, political cartel of Sacramento, so many times. Please elaborate on that.
Yeah.
For people who maybe this is the first time hearing that, political cartel.
So when you think of a cartel, they control everything, right? And this is what I do say when it comes to politics. They do control it because we have local control. We were voted in by local people to say, I like what Sonia's going to do. I like what this person's going to do. I like what, these amazing people that are stepping up and going to do. The people are voting us in. And we want to support them and we trust them to go do these things and fight back where we voted them in for. Mm-hmm. So when you have local control now being challenged and you have laws being put in place to stop local control, what is that? That's tyranny, and that's exactly what the cartel does. So I call them Newsom, Bonta, and Thurman. They bully you. Still till this day, districts that have implemented policies like ours or similar to ours are still getting threatening letters. They're still getting letters that they must back down, this, that, the other. So what happens when a local elected body is doing something for their community and you have the bigger people up on top trying to stop you from doing what you're voted in legally to do? Mm-hmm. That's not okay. So I think I'm actually being nice when I call them that. But to me, I think they've exposed themselves. We've seen it. I mean, Elon Musk is pulling his business because of this actual thing. Yeah. And that's sad to me too, Jill. Families are going to lose their jobs because of it or be forced to move out. But in the end of times, like this bruise that Newsom's leaving will hopefully be healed because all of us will unite together.
Mm-hmm. I want to briefly, first of all, I encourage everyone, whether or not you are in or outside of California, I encourage everyone to literally just Google California legislative information.
Yeah.
AB 1955.
Yes.
I am not going to sit here and read it because that would frankly be torture.
Yeah.
But just a few things that I highlighted. This bill would prohibit school districts, county offices of education, charter schools, and the state special schools, and a member of the governing board or body of those educational entities from enacting or enforcing any policy, rule, or administrative regulation that requires an employee or contractor to disclose any information related to a pupil's sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression to any other person without the pupil's consent unless otherwise required by law as provided. And it continues to describe in this bill matters of privacy and safety and all of those things, which we want our children to be safe. And I don't want to completely abandon the fact that perhaps there are abusive parents in situations, but that is not the overwhelming majority. And I just, I have to ask, because I'm sure you have parents in your district who are on the opposite perspective of this as you are. When they come to you and they say you are possibly harming children, what is your response to them one-on-one?
Well, I ask, first of all, you're a parent, if they are, because the person that we unseated actually co-founded an organization that got behind AB 1955. She is not a parent, so I can't even ask her those questions. But the other co-founder of that does have a parent, and I've asked face-to-face when we've sat in interviews together, would you not want to know about your own child? And there's no answer. I still have not gotten that answer. So my thing, when you talk about a child being in danger, first of all, if we can't eliminate the fact that this is gender dysphoria.
Right.
Kids need help, right? And the government and the school are not the ones to help. And the parents should be the first response into getting them help. But with that said, when it comes to the children experiencing these things and they're saying the child is in danger, I would say, wouldn't you want to know as a parent, okay? And the parents do need to be involved. But with that said, the parents can get the help for the child.
I always like to say, would you like to know if your child is involved in some sort of conflict at school that has the potential to either hurt someone else's feelings or cause physical harm? These are all the things that parents have traditionally and rightfully needed to be informed about so that we can partner parents and teachers together to make sure that our children are growing and developing properly. That's my response. And when I hear you say what you say to parents, that is the exact same response. We have to be fully transparent, full transparency so that we can work to a solution. Absolutely. And I don't understand as a mom, I mean, I'm not an elected official by any means, but as a mom, I can't understand how other parents can dispute that reasonably. That's just something that blows my mind. I encourage everyone to read the Assembly Bill number 1955 from California. Sonia, I want to ask you now, I'm throwing a little bit of a plot twist in this. Have you heard of something that I recently discovered called the 45 Declared Goals of Communism that was shared back in 1958 in a book called The Naked Communist? It was written by a former FBI special agent, Skuzin, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He is not without controversy himself. I will disclose, full disclosure, Skuzin is not without controversy himself. However, he shared 45 declared goals for the communist takeover of America. Have you heard of these?
No, I have not.
I want to read you some of them, and I want our listeners and viewers to also just absorb these a moment. These were written in 1958 in a book by a former FBI agent. They were they're on the congressional record from 1963. These are some of the goals. There are 45 of them, and I'm just going to pluck a few that I found. Number 17 for the communist takeover of America. Get control of the schools. Use them as transmission belts for socialism and current communist propaganda. Soften the curriculum. Get control of teachers' associations. Put the party line in textbooks. Goal number 27. Infiltrate the churches and replace revealed religion with, quote, social religion. Discredit the Bible. Goal number 28, eliminate prayer or any phase of religious expression in the schools on the ground that it violates the principle of separation of church and state. How many times have we heard that? The last goal I want to read, goal number 41 of 45, emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influence of parents, attribute prejudices, mental blocks, and retarding of children to suppressive influence of parents. So I ask this question with, in a most sobering way, is, do we think that these goals are on the way, or do we think that these goals have already been implemented?
Jill, everything you just read is our reality right now. And it's a scary thought, but we've been trying to sound the alarm when all of us started to jump into this. Everything you read is exactly what they're doing. It's the pages right out. That's their playbook, is right here.
And many of them are actual law now.
They're actual law now. I mean, this is exactly what's happening. And it's just so crazy to see from 1958 through 63 that this person wrote this book and wrote exactly what they're doing to this day. So that's what I keep telling people. This wasn't a short-term thing. We were all just blinded. We were all just trying to go through our normal day, provide for our families, put food on the table. We were not paying attention to this while they were working hard to push this communism into our day-to-day right here in the United States.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious to see what this lawsuit from Liberty Justice Center and Chino Valley Unified School District, or I should say the Board of Education, I'm curious what this yields in the coming months and the coming year. I want to ask you now, getting to the mom conversation, how do you stay strong and safe for your family? Because you really do cope with a lot. And I myself will look at social media and read articles, and I genuinely think, because I know you personally, I don't know you very well personally, but I do know you personally. I think, how is Sonia doing this? I really think that as a mom. I think, how is Sonia doing this? And I don't want to make anyone cry or turn it emotional, but how are you doing this? Because it's scary for many people to think about public harassment. You're actually living it.
Yeah. First of all, it's God. There would be no way I would be sitting here if it wasn't for God. Most people at this point would run, including myself, and hide and try to protect your family far away from this craziness. But I remember the first day that the first death threat, I had laid my head in the Bible. I had nowhere else to go but God, and I just bawled. My Bible still has messed up marks from tears. And I was like, Lord, help. What are we doing? Why are we doing this? Like, what do we do? And I, as a child, I always wanted I had a bad childhood. So I always wanted to like feel Jesus and see him, like that child mind. And I'm like, Lord, can you just show me yourself right now? And I know you always hear about these stories where people got to feel or see Jesus. And at that moment, I don't want to cry, but I had his big hands. I felt the warmth, and he just held me and he said, child, you're going to be fine. Like, and it was like, okay, where do you want to send me next? Right. And I'm not saying we don't have those vulnerable moments still, but my children have, and I hate to say this, but they're so strong in their faith too, that it's been so beautiful to see them through. Like, because I'm constantly checking them. Are you okay? Are you fine? They'll see stuff on social media. My kids, after they come home from practice, they watch every board meeting. Mom, I can't believe they said this or that.
Wow.
And as much as you try to shield them from stuff, they still see it. I remember 2 months ago, or it was Easter, I was opening mail. My daughter was in the car, I'm by the mailbox. And the threat came in, and it was on a piece of paper and in colors of the rainbow. And it said, you're not safe. Your daughter's not safe. We're coming for you. Get fun. Let's play. Get ready. Let's have fun and play a game. And my daughter saw my face, and tears poured down. But at that moment, she goes, what is that? And I'm like, nothing. Put it in the envelope. Got home. Went to go call the police. I went upstairs to go have the conversation upstairs. I come downstairs. She's reading the letter. And I'm like, oh, Lord, help me. And she was like, it's okay, Mom, we're going to be fine. And I'm not saying my kids are superheroes, but I just say when it comes to what we're doing, we're on the mission. And if it wasn't for God giving us strength, I don't think we could get through this. But because we do have that, we have the majority of the support we can. So I would say God gives us the strength, and just coming together as a community, as a family. You come together. When one of you feels, weak, you just lift each other up during that time in prayer. I have many beautiful prayer sisters I can call at any moment. And that just is kind of what gets you through it.
I
It's
have
hard.
to, it's very hard. I can't imagine. I want to ask a very silly, but kind of not so silly question. I have preteen daughters,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times I will start sharing things with them, age appropriately, of
Yeah.
course, about speaking up for truth and standing up for what's right and not being scared in the face of evil with things you see happening at your school or in your community.
Mm-hmm.
And as many teenage daughters can be,
Yeah.
sometimes they will roll their eyes and say, yeah, we know. You talk about it all the time. Give it a rest. And do you ever experience that?
Sometimes my kids are a little too feisty, and I think that comes from me. But when that happens, there's every once in a while, yeah, Mom, we know. They'll tell me something that happened, and I'm like, oh, well, you should have responded. We did, and I'm like, okay. So it's
Okay,
more
so-
like egg in my face, right? Okay, fine. But they have to balance stuff too, so
Yeah.
they have to earn the trust, right?
I just wanted to make sure that you were a normal family, right?
Oh,
And that your
girl,
kids
we
are-
are normal,
And that your kids aren't, yes, Mom, whatever you say.
Oh, no,
all
no,
the
no,
time."
no. You know what's actually funny? I fought with my daughter. It was about a year ago. It was during the meeting. I think it was the meeting prior to Tony Thurman coming to our meeting. So it was last June. My eldest said they have practice all the time, soccer practice. They're, competitive athletes. So it always worked out where I never had to shield them from coming to a meeting. And they were on break, and she said, I'm going to come to the meeting and speak. And I'm like, oh, no. I said, you don't even know. Those people will attack you even more. I'm trying to shield you. And I remember telling her no for a whole week, because she warned me a few days, I think it was like 5 days before. And I'm like, no, I love you, Madison. I appreciate you wanting to come, but I can't do this. I cannot do this knowing you're going to be attacked more at school or whatever it may be. And at the end of the day, I didn't know. She had already written her speech. And when my husband said, Sonia, she already wrote her speech, I broke down in tears. Like,
I'm
how
going to
am I-
start right.
And if you saw her speech, oh my gosh, Jill,
Well, it's all on public
that
record.
day before, yeah, it is. And the day before I left to the meeting, how am I raising these two beautiful young ladies to be brave and bold and then tell them, no, you can't do it? I looked at her and I said, Madison, just don't do anything that would hurt you. Don't say anything. Be careful with what you say, because you have to be cautious. They'll twist it. They'll turn it. You might have good intentions, but they just twist everything.
Yeah.
And I said, I love you. Pray about it. If you want to come, Dad will bring you. I trust you. I kissed her goodbye. And sure enough, that girl was on that podium with her sister next to her. But the most beautiful part during that time, her school counselor, the one that gives them their classes, I love this woman to death. When I was up on the dais, watching my child almost in tears, my heart was breaking. I wanted to go down there as a mother, but I had two roles at that point. Her counselor gets out of her seat. It was so beautiful, Jill. And she gets out of her seat and stands right by my daughter, puts her hand on her back, and my daughter was able to say what she needed to say. And during that time, it just reminded me, there's beautiful people that God will send your way when you have a need. And as much as my children are bold and brave, but they also have those vulnerable moments and those silly moments.
Yeah.
Where you're like, okay, whatever.
All right, I'm the mom. All right, I'm the mom.
Yeah.
Time to check it for
Absolutely.
next time.
Right? Like, okay, fine.
Okay, fine, you win, teenager.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that story. Wow. I don't want to leave people in doom and gloom, because obviously
Absolutely not.
heading into this new back to school season
Yes.
for 2024 through 2025, you are still going to be serving as president of your local school board, Chino Valley in Southern California. I want to ask you, if and when people go to their school board to speak,
Yes.
if you are on the opposite side of perspective as the people who are elected,
Mm-hmm.
what are your recommendations to those speakers so that the people on the other side of the podium who are serving and in charge, so to speak, actually hear their words? Because I always want to acknowledge, listen, we believe in freedom of speech. We believe in diversity of thought. Many people, as long as you're reasonable, we may disagree on all sorts of things, but I do believe there's always a happy medium where we can work together and live together in this great nation. For someone who's on the opposite perspective as you, what would they do and what can they do and say so that you hear their message?
So I would say, just as we did when we were parents, is provide a solution or provide an offering to a solution, right? Like you always hear, children are going to do this or they're going to be this. Okay, well, show me. Let's sit down and talk and actually have a conversation instead of saying, you bigot, this, that, the other.
Right.
You have to do that. I get it in a point where once you find out who somebody is, it's all game on. But what we honestly did is followed everything up with emails like, hey, we really want to be part of the solution. We really want to sit down and actually have a conversation and show you both sides of the fence so that way we can come together and find the best solution for all. So I think always trying to be part of the solution instead of just part of the problem, that is the way that you get the attention because let's be real, us parents went out into the health department, to county supervisors, to elected officials. A lot of times the doors were closed in our face. But every once in a while, you had that little bit of opportunity where the window opened, and that's where we saw, okay, we can provide a solution, right? And maybe they can't help us in the bigger picture, but they can connect us with those that could. So I think just being willing to sit at a table and have these tough conversations. Look, Jill, before that, till this day, I still offered Newsom, Thurman, and Bonta an actual conversation. Like, I'm like, let's just sit down. But they didn't want to. So I'm like, okay, if you want to really fight this good fight, then good, game on, right?
Yeah.
But it was really authentic approach to like say, hey, you really think this is the problem? Let's sit. But if you can't do that, you're not willing, then there is no solutions that are going to happen to best serve everybody.
Right.
So I would just say, make sure before you start attacking that person, you know the same story.
It's very difficult, but we are in a position now where it's all hands on deck.
Yes.
And things are way too serious, and legitimate laws are being passed that harm children and families.
Absolutely.
What hope can you offer, if any? Are public school districts that are very large, like LAUSD, for instance? I know you're not affiliated with LAUSD, Los Angeles Unified, but do you think that public school districts are lost if they're very large? Because your district is very small.
I would say it's going to take a lot more people to get involved. We have great and amazing teachers, we have great and amazing admin, and we have great parents, right? But it takes the involvement. I have some teachers from LASD that go to these union meetings, and they give me, the documents when their union's trying to take out the pledge or this or that, the other. They're exposing things. So they're playing their part, right? They're trying to help. So I would say I wouldn't lose faith. But if you had another option, look, we want to save public schools, but it is so horrific with the laws and the requirements that they actually take away from us educating our kids. And the results are there. I mean, our kids are failing at reading, writing, and math, right?
Oh, you could see all the data.
We cannot give up into that if our money and our dollars are going into that. And there's kids that don't have that option. So I would say get involved. You may not be the person running, but you might have a gift of social media where that person running has no clue how to use social media. I mean, I'm the worst at social media, right? You might be the one that is able to make flyers or go knocking on a door when you have that person willing to run for office. Unless you get involved, unless you maybe spend an hour in that classroom, unless you do things that actually help, I think we're going to be in the same situation. But I also see hope in people coming and doing these things. I've seen a lot of people unite. I've seen, although we're against the big machine of the union dollars and all these things, we also have great big wins and we have success. And look at what's happening. Things are being exposed where before it was all hush, hush under the rug. We're allowing these people to come out in public and tell parents that they're dangerous and extremists because they want to be involved in their lives. Now you know who these people are.
Right.
Before, people didn't know who Thurman, Bonta, and some of them didn't even know who Newsom was, right? But now they know. And I think that's the most beautiful part because we're all contributing to that. It's not one person. The voice might be one person, and then you have all these people to support that person behind them. And if we can just get everybody to use their gifts where it's needed, we are unstoppable. We can change because, look, Jill, people throughout California, even in other countries, are contacting us. We're watching Don't Give Up. If whatever it goes in California goes, there goes the nation. And actually now people are going, there goes our country too.
Yeah.
Guys, don't give up. And to me, that is such a great responsibility to get involved that I think we need to now more than ever. Look, was any of this exposed 4 or 5 years ago? Absolutely not. Very little. Now it's all out on the table. So I think all hands need to be on deck.
Yeah. And there's no way out but through it.
Exactly. He's going to bring you to it. You're going to get through it.
You have to get through it. If
absolutely.
isn't something to light up every parent's spirit and even grandparents. Taxpayers pay for public schools.
Yep.
And that's one fact that admittedly I was very blasé and I don't want to say uninformed about, but I was very casual about that reality, in fact, prior to a few years ago. But taxpayers pay for public education, and any taxpayer can go to a school board meeting and get involved and really ignite change, like you say, in a behind the scenes way. So, wow, thank you so much for everything that you do. This is why we aim to educate our kids at PragerUkids.com. No joke. We always joke and say 5 minutes a day with your kids, but we did, I believe, get into this mess because my generation was not properly educated about how civics works. And we did not learn how the checks and balances and the system of government and local control, how all of that works together. So thank you for all that you're doing. You are riding the ship, as far as I'm concerned, in Southern California. You have so many people who are just taking inspiration, and keep going.
Thank you. We're a team, Jill. We're a team. We're all a team.
Everyone has a part to play. If you have not followed Sonia Shaw, please look her up on social media. Look at what your school district, I keep saying the school district. I want to also emphasize, look at what your school board has accomplished. Chino Valley Board of Education, and there are pockets of California that really are trying to maintain reasonability in our education system to keep kids academically educated.
Absolutely.
And not indoctrinated.
And that's what I tell our staff. I'm here to make sure we take the slings and the arrows so you can educate our kids. I don't want that noise in between. We need you to be out there and educate. And luckily, our board majority right now is supporting that. And it's a beautiful thing. We just need to make sure it continues in that direction for all of the kids in all the districts.
Absolutely. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you haven't already subscribed, PragerUkids.com. Also check out our parent alerts for conversations like this and more about topics and issues in education, and most importantly, solutions that we can do as parents and citizens to push back against some of the things being forced on our kids. Thank you.